For more about the future of space and tourism and the business behind it, Ryan Faith, Defense and National Security Editor for Vice News. Welcome to Viz Asia America. This is a fascinating topic. I think people have fascinated throughout their lifetimes as to when they might get a chance to go to space. We look at space, and there are a couple individuals that are putting something together. Richard Branson, Elon Musk. They're proposing the ideas of sending normal people like you and I into space. Do you think this is realistic?
Not anytime in the near future. Right now, is the costs for the flights that Richard Branson is selling are $250,000 a ticket for a short suborbital hop. But the hope is that flights like that will increase flight rate, and with the higher volume that you can start pushing down per launch costs. So maybe someday, but it's nothing I'd really put on your to-do list for the next 2 or 3 years.
Now, another idea has been brought up about landing on the moon, for example, or having a hotel, having a place where you spend the night on the moon and then you can come back again. Is that realistic?
In let's say 20 years out, perhaps. In 2000, the first space tourists went to the space station, and you can fly on the space station for about $70 million a seat. And supposedly Russia is selling tickets for a trip around the moon at
you said 70 million, right?
70.
Bargain.
Yeah, but the prices, for instance, for Virgin Galactic, it's about 1% of that, actually even a bit less. So the question is can you do it at all? Perhaps, and that's sort of the first step before we get to can we do it cheaply.
Now, as we were talking earlier, there's space, there's Earth, and there's a lot of places in between. You can get to almost space. So tell us what's realistic if we get to 50,000 feet, commercial airliners fly just below that. You get above that, let's say 100,000 feet or 200,000 feet. Do you get the feeling, are you close to space?
With folks like the space tourist companies, like Virgin Galactic or Xcor, is that they put you up over 100 kilometers, which is 300,000 feet and change, and that's technically considered space.
You can say you've been in space.
You can say you've been to space. So what you'll get is you'll get to float around in zero gravity. You will see space. It will look like you're, on the space station or on the space shuttle, but you won't be going around. It's sort of a trip up and maybe about 5-6 minutes in space, and then you come back down.
It's five minutes basically.
Yeah.
And then you come back down, and what's that going to cost?
Let's say call it about $250,000.
Okay, so it's a lot cheaper than 70 million.
Yeah, so $250,000 doesn't sound like it's cheap, but compared to 70, sure, it's a lot cheaper.
And will we see that in our lifetime? I mean, they're testing a lot of technologies now to do that, aren't they?
There's a fighting chance that we'll actually see that $250,000 price come down. I mean, when you start looking at the very highest costs for, let's say, private jets or first-class international travel, it's possible to see the space travel come down into that range.
All right, that's the fun stuff. Here's the controversial stuff. Governments.
Yes.
They've got military satellites. They have military technology. A lot of that stuff is being used on these spacecrafts. You put those two together, the controversy. Explain it.
Well, you've got sort of an issue about high technology and sort of how it's developed, and the big question is whether or not it crosses borders. If you look at things like aircraft, is that commercial companies, for instance, Lockheed and Boeing, manufacture advanced fighter jets. So it's not necessarily that a private company can't research or build the technology, but it's sort of a question of whether or not it gets loose. Yes, it's a problem, but it's not insurmountable or really particularly new here.
Can they do like another space station per se that maybe perhaps it costs less than $70 million? You can go up, spend a night in a space station, or 2 nights, or it could be like a vacation place, could it not?
Well, there's somebody who's actually a firm out in Nevada, owned by Robert Bigelow, who's a hotelier, who's developing sort of habitats that will be cheaper to spend time at. And then you've got people like Elon Musk at SpaceX that are making it cheaper to get there. But still, if you're going from 70 to 20 million, that's still far more than I could probably get on my credit card.
I think the bank might give you a call.
They would totally notice that.
Okay, very interesting. I think a lot of people are watching the space. Even though none of us can afford to go, essentially, we're all fascinated by the idea of potentially knowing someone that might have went. All right.